Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Talent Playbook, the podcast for and by the HR leaders. Today, we are in the finale. That is our episode 12 of this series. And we could not have expected a better guest to be featuring in our finale. We have with us Laura McGann. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me.
Laura has been with the industry for over 2 decades, helping leaders in succeeding through team performance as well as organizational change. She has been an expert in translating business strategy into talent strategies with measurable outcomes. Currently, the Chief People Officer at Prosci, she's helping the change management giant in this AI era. Proper guide in this AI era, I must say. So with that, Laura, we are straight diving into our podcast. We are hearing so much these days on the trends of how 2026 is going to be. So in all this noise, what do you take away as the key trends for this year?
Yes, this is a very exciting time to be in HR and talent management. I think we are definitely going to need to talk about AI at some point this morning. But I think there are two trends that are a little bit under the radar that might feel familiar, but are going to really change this year, next year, and kind of going forward. So one is role clarity. I think as work shifts, role clarity is going to be a significant trend that we need to address. And the second is the manager operating model. So I'd love to just talk about two of those really quickly. I think role clarity, roles are getting much more fluid. So in many jobs, there's what you do with AI, what you do with AI helping you out. There are some things that we all need to do without any technology, regardless of the industry that you're in. And then many of us will be using agents or doing much more with automation, and there are things that we'll be expected to oversee. And so the issue isn't just the technology. I think it's really the human question that it creates, which is, what am I accountable for now? So as all of those things are changing, so what does good look like? And how will my manager know that I am on track? How will I know that I'm on track? So I think we have a emerging issue with role clarity and identity. And so, HR, it's not just maybe about rewriting job descriptions every quarter, which we might need to do. We'll have to solve for that. But I think it's about getting really crisp on outcomes, decision rights, standards, what AI is going to recommend, what the human must decide, what is quality. So I think we have a lot of emerging questions that is really going to make the manager and employee alignment, it's going to change a lot. And performance management obviously is going to need to change. I'm fascinated about, what HR's role is going to be in that as everything changes, and then what the manager's role is going to be. So I think that's really the second trend that we need to be talking much more about, the human side of this. So managers aren't just going to lead people, they're going to lead a whole system, right? They're going to need to lead the people, the technology, and the collaboration, right? The sense making between the two. So that has a lot to do with resetting expectations, standards, catching shortcuts before they become issues. So a lot of things there that I know we're going to need to dive way more into as HR and talent management going forward.
This all will require a lot of change. So considering that, like the organization, Prosci are change management experts themselves, but within the organization, how are you architecting the change?
Yes, working at Prosci gives me a unique advantage, and I used to be a client of Prosci, and so using some of the Prosci tools has been very helpful in this challenging phase. I think having a common language for change is one of the most important things. The other thing I think a lot about is change capacity.
Mhm.
So, both at the individual level and at the organizational level, I think it's a big mindset shift and really hard to get your arms around sometimes how much change is happening in your organization. So, first is really maybe a very practical thing, which is making change visible.
Mhm.
So, having a change portfolio view, and you can do that whether you're a small organization or incredibly large organization. So having a sense of what's changing, who's impacted, when they are changing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you need to have something that you can put in front of leaders and say, here are the groups that we're changing. Here's what's hitting them. Here's what the impact is. And really giving you the ability to manage it so you can sequence, you can deconflict, you can even pause something. The focus is the strategy. So really bringing focus to your change strategy, I think is really important. And then really treating change, as you know, as a really practical shift and thinking about the change as almost like a product. Um, what is the outcome? What is the use? Having it be really role-based. So having people really understand that they want to use the change and really thinking about it as a product. And I think the big HR opportunity here
Mhm.
is to connect people to the business results, the people side of change to the business results. And I know you know this well, but if we can track observable
Yeah.
behaviors, right? So are the managers changing? Back to managers and
Correct.
jobs, I just spoke about, right? So there's a new workflow, time to proficiency. Maybe not as much do people like the change, which I know is important, right? We want to bring people along, but is the change actually happening?
Mhm.
And that's really, especially where HR can show up and become a true change leader. So getting a sense of the portfolio, what is the actual change? And then are people actually changing their behaviors? So I get really pragmatic. I like that word, like very clear in change. There's a lot of places people can get lost in the
Yeah.
change. So what's the really practical, pragmatic side of how we manage change and what that portfolio looks like?
In this whole thing, is learning getting impacted for the organization? And how are you managing that learning and what's changing in that?
Yes, yes. And before I worked at Prosci and before I focused specifically on change, I've always seen change and learning as two sides of the same coin. So when I think about learning, it really is learning's not an event, it's a system. It's part
Mm.
of a change,
Mhm.
whether it's a career change, right? So we're learning and getting new career skills, or it's learning as part of a bigger change.
Mhm.
And if the work is changing all the time, sometimes every week, then our learning models really have to keep up. So I know you've spoken on this podcast a lot about learning in the flow of work. That's incredibly important. Um, Designing around the moments that matter. So I like to take learning and think about it more in the when it happens. So onboarding, the first customer escalation, the first time somebody handles a quality issue, the first time someone learns or uses AI, the
Mhm.
first time they are giving a performance review. It can be any moment that
Mhm.
makes it easy to get your head around what do I need to learn? You want to learn, there's a high desire to learn, and then giving that learning in the flow of work so that they can immediately apply it. I think that is one of the biggest unlocks I've had about learning and how do we learn really quickly and rapidly.
Mhm.
So I think that's mostly how it's changing for me, how I think
Mhm.
about learning. But
Mhm.
then I also think about changing the metrics of learning. So I know we've been in this career for a long time, right? It's not just about who came to the learning and how they feel about the learning, but really that time to proficiency
Yes.
metric,
Yes.
right? So how long it really takes someone to perform independently.
Mhm.
And I think we can actually measure that now,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially with the help of technology and as we chunk out the learning a little bit better. So that will help us, I think, get really clear measuring time to proficiency. Um, and I think the third piece of this really is about behavior change, right? So how do we actually think about what happens after the learning? So whether you're delivering it in the flow of work or you're delivering it in a more traditional program, it really is about what happens after. So we need to invest more in the practice, in the reinforcement plan of the learning. And I think we don't do that enough as a profession. And maybe that's a little bit because of our role. And so maybe it's working with the manager and HR showing up again, after 4 weeks, after 8 weeks. What is the reinforcement plan to make sure that we get the learning applied, the ability, and the behaviors?
Now, a little bit of Laura herself. So, from these questions, like a little rapid fire from us. So, one skill you are betting for your organization.
You might guess what I'm going to say here, but
So, I'm having the smile, but still, yeah.
change agility. So you can put whatever word, change capability, change resilience, but really change agility for me is incredibly important.
So, in the same way, like, how do you see we're seeing a lot of best practices around us. So, any best practice you feel would become obsolete in this era?
Yeah, we already touched on performance management. Maybe it's something around these static job descriptions that I'm talking about. So this is like how we operate, right? What is the job? We write down the job. It doesn't change. We do performance management. I don't know when they're going to become obsolete, but something has got to change with how concrete they are, right? So the really static is kind of the primary source of role clarity. So I think just things are shifting so fast. What good looks like is changing so fast. So I don't know what job descriptions are going to look like, but something is definitely going to change there as we move forward.
One overrated trend.
So I'm curious if this trend has made it around the world yet. I'm in Boston, and it seems a lot of my things that I'm reading and links at LinkedIn posts are merging IT and HR into one function. And I think that is an overrated conversation, an overrated trend. So I don't know if that has made its way around the world, but I absolutely think IT and HR need to collaborate much, much more. But the magic, I don't think, is in combining the org charts quite yet. I think it's, clearly shared outcomes, adoption, productivity, risk, a really tight partnership on workflow design, so the employee experience, but I do think there are very distinct accountabilities. So, IT has a very, very important role. HR has a very, very important role. And I think we've got to be very thoughtful around any kind of combining or over collapsing of HR and IT in the machine-human work era. Again, much more collaboration though, for sure.
One thing people leaders must start doing or stop doing.
This is a tough one for me because I might do this myself, but I think we need to, as managers, people leaders, stop rewarding speed over quality and integrity.
A book you're reading now.
I just finished, just finished it. It's called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker.
Towards the end of it, so what would be your one advice to fellow HR leaders?
Yeah, this is maybe personal, but I'll just share some advice. Over invest in your own learning is one, but the second part is maybe even more important. Make it visible. So if we're asking our organizations to adapt faster than ever before, we're asking people to try new things, we're not going to really build those muscles unless we're only talking about it and not modeling it. So we really need to model it. And I think this can be very vulnerable, especially for senior leaders and actually for everyone. Telling somebody that you don't know how to do something is very vulnerable. Showing people where you are in your proficiency journey can be scary to share that with people. Right? So I think we need to be a little vulnerable in public. So share what we're learning, what we're trying, what we're getting wrong, telling your team, here's what I'm working on, here's how I'm using AI, or here's how I just learned this new tool. That honesty really lowers the pressure. and raises the standard, right, for real growth. So I think we really have to model that right now and make it practical, like very practical. Here's what I learned this month. Here's what I learned this week. Here's, what I'm trying. And I think when we do that consistently, it can give permission to everybody. And that's us maybe unlearning how we used to do it in private.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
We didn't tell everybody what we were doing. And really showing people in the flow of work. So show people what you're doing. I think that would be probably the best piece of advice, that I'm trying to model and give to others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Laura, for this. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It was a joy.